Hi, I'm Rob Hikes and welcome to my channel. So I'm currently in hotel quarantine in Hong Kong, but I just got back from the Canadian Rockies, my first ever visit to Yoho National Park. So I've put this little video together to share with you some info on how to get there, entry information, safety, as well as 3 incredible hikes, which are all very short day hikes with on-trail footage to numerous places, including Wapta Falls and Emerald Lake. So I'll start by telling you just where it is to begin with. So it's in Canada and it's located in the Rockies on the western slopes. The nearest town is actually Field, which is a teeny tiny little town, but for a reference point, Golden, BC, and Lake Louise, it's kind of like smack bang in the middle of those 2 places. So at 507 square miles, it's a very big park, but the Trans-Canada Highway runs all the way through, and it's along the highway that most of the accessible day things are located. So there's so much to explore, and I'm going to share some of that with you today. So firstly, some information on entry into the park. So it's kind of different to the parks that you get in the USA. It's obviously managed by Parks Canada. So if you're not familiar with how to gain access into the park, the highway, the Trans-Canada Highway, runs all the way through the park. So obviously to drive through the park is completely fine. But if you want to stop in the park, then you're going to need to sort yourself out a pass. So the passes can be bought in advance of your visit online on Parks Canada's website. There's a link down below, or you can just get it when you're there. Now, there's a visitor centre in that teeny tiny town called Field, BC, and in there, in the visitor centre, obviously if they're open, you can buy your pass there, or you can book online in advance. It needs to be displayed on your windshield. If you buy the physical pass, there's like a hook, like a hook thing that goes over your rear view mirror, or you can just tape it up in the front window. The Parks Pass actually covers all the parks in that area. So it covers Kootenay, it's going to cover Banff, and it's going to cover Jasper as well as the Glacier Park as well. It's 10 Canadian dollars per person per day at the time of making this video. So if there's 2 of you in the car, that's $20 a day for that pass, and so on. Or you can just get a vehicle pass, which will cover your whole vehicle. I think it's up to 4 people, but I'll write it on the screen just in case I've got that info wrong. And that's $140 for the party. So $140 for the party. So it's up to you really whether you think you're going to come back again, if you're going to utilize it. We were only in the parks for a week. Well, under a week, it was like 5 days that we're actually physically in the parks. So it was cheaper for us to just buy the pass per person per day. It's valid until 4 p.m. on the 2nd day. So if you buy it Monday at 10 a.m., it's going to be valid until Tuesday, 4 p.m. So as long as you've done all your stops by then and you're back in the car and on the road, you're good. So for us, it was just worked out better. We're not going to be in Canada, unfortunately, again, within the 12-month window to utilize the annual pass. I use my annual pass in the US quite a lot, because I'm in the US quite a lot, but I only go to Canada seldomly. There is a visitor centre, as I said, in the town of Field. They can give you more information and help you work out like the best option. We did speak to a ranger there, and she just asked us some questions like how long were we going to be in the park, were we leaving the park, were we staying within the park, and that really helped us to make the right decision for us. And they're really good like that. They're not trying to just get money off you. So my story is that we flew into Vancouver from London because Canada had just opened to British visitors, and the airline that we use don't fly to Calgary anymore. So we flew to Vancouver and we did the road trip thing because that's what we wanted to do. But of course, if you press for time, you want to fly basically to Edmonton or Calgary. They're your best bets, and then you can access the park from there. The town of Canmore and Banff are also big towns that are really close by. Banff obviously a little bit closer, Canmore a little bit further away. However, obviously there's not much in the way of public transit to get to the trailheads and stuff, so really you need to be driving a car to get there. So my top tip for you would be to fly into either Edmonton or Calgary and rent a car and drive there. But if you're coming from any of the other big cities such as Vancouver, it's definitely doable, but just you need to stop halfway basically because it's a long old drive. In terms of the park's safety, these are just some little tips from me before we get into the hikes themselves. But this is bear country, so you're hiking amongst grizzly bears and black bears, so you need to be bear aware. And I think most people that watch these videos probably already have hiked or are familiar with hiking in bear country. But I have got a little video which I've just made. There's a link down below, and you can see that, and that's all about bear safety. There's also some other critters you might come across: wolves, mountain lions. There's no poisonous snakes that you need to worry about, but just hike in a group, or at least if you're going to go on your own, let someone know where you're going. All the trails that I'm going to tell you about today are quite heavily trafficked, so I wouldn't worry too much about those trails. But if you're going to go into the backcountry, then obviously you need to be safe, and I think that's the case for all national parks, regardless of the wildlife. You always need to be safe. Cell phone signal, I know that's a huge thing for some people. We came from the UK, but we did have a data plan that we could use in Canada, and unfortunately we didn't get cell coverage for the majority of the time. But when you're in national parks, you don't need to worry about stuff like that. It's only handy if you need to like find directions and stuff. But a top tip from me would be if you use Google Maps, not Apple Maps, but Google Maps, on your iPhone or other device, you can actually download offline huge sections of the map. So what we did was we downloaded like the Vancouver area, the in-between area, and then the parks area, so I could use those offline on airplane mode, and it would give me directions like any sat-nav would, which was really helpful. Also, the weather in the mountains, so summers are very hot, so especially if you're hiking, you need to make sure that you've got plenty of water with you, and equally winter and especially the shoulder seasons can be really hit and miss. So we came in early September, and it was pretty nice weather. It was sunny and warm in the day, and I think it got to about 18 degrees as a high. However, in the nights it did get super duper cold, and towards the end of our trip it actually dipped below freezing, and that was in mid-September. Snow, it can happen at any time, and these are the mountains, so weather can change really rapidly. And I think especially if you were going to go in the early spring or in the fall, you need to be really prepared for huge changes in the weather conditions. So I would always make sure that you've got stuff with you if you had to have an emergency and you had to get out of the car. So warm clothes as well for hiking, so you can take layers off, and a first aid kit just in case the worst happens. Hey, so I've told you all my top tips, and I know this is the bit you've been waiting for. Let's get into some of the hikes. Wapta Falls, for me, is the most important thing that you see. If you're going to do anything within this park, it needs to be that trail.
So we've just arrived at Yoho National Park in British Columbia, and we're going to go and check out Wapta Falls. This trail is pretty much flat for the whole 2.5 kilometers down to the falls. It's quite heavily trafficked, so there's quite a lot of other people around, which can make it quite noisy, but it's a really nice little hike for a family, or if you just want to get outside and see some amazing views with not too much mileage. So after a little while, there's a slight incline, and then you'll hear the roar of these falls. And we're just at the top now, but we're going to hike down to the bottom. But it almost looks like clay because of the fact it's all glacial meltwater that goes into this. But the views are just spectacular, and we're going to go right down to the bottom and check it out fully. So both myself and Ben have never been to Yoho National Park before. It's our first time, and we've only been here for about an hour in total. But what are your thoughts so far?
Breathtaking.
Yeah, it's up there with like Yosemite and stuff for pure just like insane views, and yeah, we love it. I literally feel like I'm in a rainstorm. You can walk all along the riverbed and you've got the falls behind you, there's mist all around you. It's so incredible. Just be mindful, if you have a small car, there's a lot of potholes and it can be very bumpy.
Another great thing to do is to walk around Emerald Lake. Now, this hike is not too intense at all. It'll take you a couple of hours to make your way around, but it's completely flat the whole time. The first 45 minutes is pretty busy, but once you get past that, it goes really, really quiet. And here are a selection of some of the pictures and videos that
Get lost in the wild, making sure to hold each other tight. We'd be alright, 'cause we are wild. We can get lost in the wild, miles away and out of sight. We will survive, 'cause we are
Amazing trail to do here in Yoho is the 2-hour loop around Emerald Lake. Initially, you'll be with quite a few people as you come past the blue sapphire water, but as you take the trail further along, you'll come to loads of really peaceful areas with incredible views and a bit of solitude.
The final stop that we actually made on a different day because of our itinerary, but it's all doable in one day, and that's Takakkaw Falls.
Another incredible spot that you cannot miss is Takakkaw Falls. It's the second tallest falls in all of Canada, and it is so incredible. It really reminds me of Yosemite actually, which is my absolute favourite place, and we're in this today in honour of Yosemite.
Super duper cool. The drive is a little off the highway, so with this one there's going to be some really steep switchbacks on the road where you really need to be very mindful of the space that you're giving both other users of the road and also just the sides of the road because it's really tight. Definitely wouldn't recommend doing it in icy weather or bad weather. And it's a beautiful little drive, but it does take you off the highway, so it's not like some of the other trails where you can just pop off, a mile down the road. This is going to take you like an extra half an hour to get to once you come off the Trans-Canada Highway. The parking area is quite limited, but because of where it is, it's not overly busy, but you might need to wait just a little bit of time for a parking space to become free. Other trails around this area, including some viewpoints as well, such as the meeting of the waters, which is where the two rivers actually, I think it's the Bow and the Yoho, combine, and you can see where the two different waters meet in this big pool and then flow into a big... But the actual trail to the falls is super duper easy. There's loads of little spots where you can get out and walk. You can climb on a boulder field and get even closer to it if you want to experience some of the mist and everything. Yoho National Park. It's so cool. It's definitely less visited in comparison to things like Jasper and Banff. Wildlife was a little bit lacking for us. We didn't actually see that much wildlife in the area, but that could just be the time of day that we were there and things like that. But it's definitely worth a visit, and I hope that you go. If you do, let me know how it was. Let me know if these tips helped, and if you've got tips that you'd like me to share as well, please do tell me in the comments below. Of course, like all YouTube videos, if you like this video, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and thank you so much for watching.